This meeting is being recorded.
So good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to have you all at this Enterprise Leo event, which is focused on skills and talent in collaboration with Dublin City Leo. And I'm delighted to welcome you all on behalf of Dublin Regional Skills Forum. My name is Natasha Kinsella. So I'm going to moderate the session today. So the format of today is literally I'm going to give an introduction context of Dublin Regional Skills and why we exist. And then I'm going to open up to the panel that we have, which I'll do an introduction shortly. So I'm just going to share my screen that everything is working. You might just give me a nod that you can see that screen. Perfect. Thank you so much. So just in terms of Dublin Regional Skills and why we exist, obviously the region as it stands, the landscape is quite large. We have well over 80,000 businesses within the Dublin region. Over 30% of that is representative of the total employment in Ireland. But a huge proportion of the businesses in Ireland are SMEs. And that's the target who we are trying to attract to support in terms of skills and talent. We have a number of representatives on the forum who sit around a table. We meet 5 times in the year, and then ad hocly as regional skills or initiatives start introduced based on funding and policy from our Department of Further and Higher Education. So we have the IDA representative, Enterprise Ireland, IBEC, ISME, the LEOs, the county councils. We have the Dublin Chamber, and we have representatives from SkillNet Ireland. But for our educational providers, we have 7 higher education providers in total, which is approximately representative of over 118,000 learners. And we also have 2 education and training boards, which is City of Dublin ETB and DDL ETB, which is Dublin Dunleary ETB, again representing over 80,000. So our primary focus is addressing skills needs for the businesses in Dublin. But given the landscape in Dublin, we deal with a number, both SME businesses directly, but a number of sectors and representative bodies. And that includes sectors from tourism and hospitality, logistics, transport, retail, construction, financial, ICT, and other industries as they arise. But the structure was developed in 2016. And it allows, I suppose, at a national level, an ecosystem that gives supports to the business. So the question for the businesses around the table is, well, what do we do for you? I think the important thing, particularly for SMEs, is to support them to try and navigate that system. That's the biggest challenge, particularly for SMEs who maybe don't have learning and development expertise or capacity in-house, to try and navigate around the system to find what provisions are there that are actually state funded. So the Regional Skills Fora, and I am one of those managers who manages Dublin, there is 9 of me around the country. And our core focus is to be that one single contact for a business to understand first and foremost through articulating the skill needs for the business, to support them and make the connections with the relevant educational provider with state-funded provisions. How we do that is through labour market intelligence. Part of the ecosystem involves the Expert Future Skills and a labour market intelligence unit within SOLAS. And at a higher level, they would develop sector reports, business reports, addressing and identifying skill needs. But most importantly, when we link in with businesses, we conduct skills audits that is at a granular level to address each occupational role and what competency and skills that they require that might be needed to upskill, reskill, or as individuals progress in their career path within the business. So we articulate that skill need with the business direct, and then we connect them to the relevant provider. That could be further education, higher education, a SkillNet, a Leo, or any other provision that exists. But in addition to support, as we know, particularly given COVID, there is a huge amount of challenges around talent recruitment. And that's where our partners in the Department of Social Protection and Intrio come in as well. So again, our panel today is made up of a number of key stakeholders, including our business case example, that will give their story and showcase some of those provisions. So just to continue on about particular focuses that we do under regional skills. So we look at the region and we identify with the engagement of business, the priority skills needs for the region. That informs the educational providers in terms of signposting the connections, but also informing the curriculum at any given stage based on the skills needs that have been identified. We then address through our partners with our providers the skills solutions to meet those particular skill gaps. We also identify through the collaborative basis of the industry ecosystem to ensure pathways are identified as people progress through their career. The other aspect that we do when we do a skills audit was we look at every occupational role within the business and we try and identify what the technical and soft or critical skills are. And that informs policy drivers when they're making decisions about funding initiatives such as our human capital initiatives, skills to advance or skills to compete. And then finally, that allows us to build that talent pipeline with our partners who have access to either those who are unemployed from marginalized groups, those are looking to transfer into different sectors or businesses, or certainly access to graduates in the pool of talent that comes through our provider ecosystem. Then to cover the outcomes that focus on every activity and initiative that we do throughout the year. And this is critical for a business to understand in terms of when they engage with us, what they are doing to support that ecosystem. Certainly that engagement informs the curriculum about what's actually needed for the skills that businesses want addressed. It identifies emerging skills that maybe at this present time, there maybe isn't provision, or certainly if there's provision, it may need to be tweaked as the skill gaps or emerging skills are identified through that engagement. It also ensures then that graduates coming through the ecosystem have linkage with employability skills, employers for particular career paths, and obviously that they are graduate ready to start in those positions that the employers are looking to recruit for. But a key element as well is the future talent pipeline. And that's where the collaboration of those providers with the employers is a key element to develop at every stage an element of that talent pipeline and access it, whether it's through the alumni of the career services within the educational provision, for those experienced individuals who are transferring, or graduates directly coming out of provision looking for their first journey in that career pathway. There's a lot of initiatives that are going on in our ecosystem at the moment. And what I'm trying to do here on the slide is just identify a couple, because I could be here all day to talk about some of the initiatives that are actually on offer. And what we have seen certainly over COVID with the July stimulus package is a huge amount was offered to employers. But the difficulty is trying to reach those employers who really don't understand, they don't know where to go, or they can't navigate that system. To help them do that and make sure that they are actually aware of the funded provisions that exist. So I'm just going to highlight a few key elements that some of our panel will go into more detail later on. There was, and each year for the last 10 years, an initiative under Springboard. This is particularly important, and it's amazing the amount of employers I still talk to who have no idea about Springboard and what it offers. Springboard about 5 years ago actually covered in prior to the 5 years, it was very much focused towards those unemployed individuals to upskill and transfer to get those first stages back into employment. But in the last 5 years, what we've seen is the focus on upskilling for those in employment. The Springboard is open to anyone at this stage. And it amazes me when I still say to employers level 6 is free and level 7 to 9 is a 10% levy on behalf of the employer. So you can see on the slide, there's a substantial amount of replacement opportunities for individuals on an ongoing annual basis. Every year this fund is available to secure those courses and placements that allow individuals while they're working to maybe even get their first qualification at degree level or certainly postgraduate level. But the cost is highly subsidized. So it's a huge benefit plus to the employer to offer that to their employees. And this is the important aspect when we talk to employers. All employers from a tax perspective pay into the National Training Fund, but a lot of the employers actually don't access the benefit back because they're not aware of these funded state provisions. Other aspects is the Human Capital Initiative. And again, this has seen huge developments over the course of COVID, where there's particular innovation, flexible, agile projects coming through that again offers quicker hits of flexible online learning or blended learning for all types of employees to access funded provisions while they're working. Some of those particular projects under the Human Capital Initiative, I have the privilege to be heavily involved with as a partner. Micro-credentials is one of those. That's coming through the ranks now with a number of partners. There's 7 universities involved in this. And Eleanor, obviously from UCD, knows well, UCD are one of the partners here. This will offer huge flexible, on average, you're talking about 6 to 12 weeks for microcreds of stackable provisions that are coming through under the current pilot program that allows individuals to stack particular accredited modules through micro-credentials. Convene is another serious project. I sit on the advisory committee for that. So I'm delighted to allow Eleanor will go through a little bit more detail than that. So I won't steal her thunder on that one. The collaborative project, again under human capital, is a particular focus on cybersecurity, and that's housed within TU Dublin. So again, it's a particular focus for businesses in the elements of cybersecurity at the moment. There's workshops, training provisions, funded training courses, all on offer for employers to offer out to employees to upskill in this area. Another provider is our SkillNet. There is 73 networks in Ireland that represent different sectors under SkillNet offerings. MentorWorks is just one example of that, and that's run by the Small Firms Association. And it offers a mentor learning opportunity where smaller businesses have access to a wide variety of mentors in areas of financial management, operational growth, people management. So it gives that opportunity of learning to a business who is developing strategies or initiatives as they grow and develop and innovate or change within their work environment. So that's an opportunity there that again is fully funded for businesses to access. Another great recent opportunity that was launched by SkillNet Ireland is Innovation Exchange. And this is again an opportunity to link SMEs with multinationals and gain expertise from those multinationals to support SMEs develop and grow at a global level. Then we have the apprenticeship offering. This is another huge opportunity for a business to grow a talent pipeline under work-based learning. When we talk about apprenticeship, traditionally, businesses assume it's still that craft level apprenticeship type offering. But since 2016, and I've had the pleasure to sit on the Apprenticeship Council, we now have apprenticeship programs up to PhD level in all sorts of sectors, from hairdressing to craft level, to ICT, to logistics and transport, to financial services, you name it, it's on offer an apprenticeship. But again, through COVID, our minister announced an incentive for employers who take on an apprentice. They can secure a fund of 3,000. So that's a real opportunity, one, to access and build a talent pipeline, secure your incentive for taking on an apprentice, but give that pathway for an apprentice starting out from the very start under work-based learning to allow that individual to progress while working with you as your business, while studying and learning and receiving their accredited formal qualification under the apprenticeship offering. And then finally, on further education, and again, there's a huge array, and Margaret's going to go into some of the detail here later on. Under further education, there's a huge opportunity to access, if not free, mostly funded provisions under projects such as Skills to Advance, Explore, DigiEco, and eCollege. One in particular, eCollege, I'll just note, is a full online portal that is free and accessible to anyone who's unemployed or in employment to access an array of provisions that are shorter, quicker hit provisions that are all online to allow you in a flexible way that suits you while you're working to access this training provision. But the Skills to Advance in particular, as Margaret will highlight, there's a huge opportunity for businesses to really engage with the education and training boards where they identify a particular need that develops new programs to meet that need under the fund of Skills to Advance. But Margaret will go into a little bit more later on. So that's just a number of the key initiatives that are currently there and accessible to you as an employer to access. But there are lots more. So again, Margaret will highlight another particular one is the Explore initiative. And again, I know with our business partner, Rolando, they've actually participated in Explore. So I know Rolando will explain how this has benefited this particular company. The beauty of this is it's 100% funded, but it's targeted specifically at a cohort of individuals over 30 who don't have basic digital skills, who require, as we know in every role now, basic digital skills is paramount to upskilling and developing that digital capacity. But what we offer to every participant under Explore is a digital device, which is the only program that exists that does this free for the participant to use even beyond the program when they complete it. And then we go into another key area, which is green and sustainability, where we offer DigiEco. Again, this is 100% funded, but this is a 2-day initial start-off introduction to digital and green initiatives to support your business on the start of that journey. But a number of our other partners who, again, through the local enterprise offices and certainly Dublin City Council, offer other additional programs I've highlighted there. So it's Micro for Green is another initiative and Moodos is another initiative for a sustainable future. Those businesses who maybe don't know, certainly we can connect you to those programs that might support your business in starting that journey. Well, finally, what I want to do is a call to action. If any business on this call today, I'll ask you to do something, if nothing else, is to consider looking at addressing a skills audit. We offer this service free. And again, maybe Rolando might relate to this when he gets a chance to cover the benefits back to the business. This really gives an opportunity to articulate what their skills need is, rather than you trying to navigate around what the ecosystem to try and find. You might necessarily know or clearly articulate or identify maybe what skills areas you need to address and what type of provisions are there to meet that need. So we do that. It's an online conversation like this, or a chat over the phone, or a meet-to-meet face-to-face. It only takes about an hour of your time, and it's just addressing what skills that you actually require to be met by that provision. And the follow-up from that is then making those connections for you. So that's the call to action from today. So what I'm going to do is now hand over to our panel. I'm delighted to have all of our 4 panel members. From Department of Social Protection and Intrio, we have Wardry. Higher Education, we have Eleanor from the UCD Innovation Academy. who looks after the Convene project. Delighted then from the further education side, we have Margaret, who's representing City of Dublin ETB, who we work on an ongoing basis on particular programs that are offered there. And then obviously we'll finish, last but by no means least, our business case example. We're delighted to have Rolando with us today to talk through maybe, Rolando obviously did a skills audit with me. They have seriously engaged as an Enterprise Ireland client on a number of initiatives and provisions as employers have gone through that process. So again, he might tell his story and the benefits of that. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you all for attending today. I do have the link here and the slides will be sent out after. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my slide now. And I'm going to open it up to the panel. And I'm going to start maybe with Audrey directly and pose some questions just to start the conversation. But again, all of the other participants who are online today, please do feel free, if you wish to pose a question in the chat box, please feel free, or indeed a comment that you might want to pose or suggest, please do feel free to put them in the chat, but we will open it up once each of the panel members have had an opportunity to give their brief context. We'll open it up to the floor from there. So Audrey, in Trio and DSP, there is a serious amount of really interesting offerings. And we know for most of the businesses that you link it in with, which you have a huge cohort of enterprises and employers that you do support because of the talent, particular talent gap challenge that exists in a number of key sectors, but particularly SMEs. Can you maybe give a brief overview, Audrey, of some of those recruitment financial supports that are available to employers right now? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Natasha. Well, I suppose just to say, there are employer relations team working nationally who would be working with big companies maybe who have, businesses right throughout the country, as well as locally where we might be dealing with a small employer who maybe only has a small number of employees. So like our services reaches out to any employer that's out there. And the first point of call for anybody who is recruiting would be to avail of our free website, our job search website, which is jobsireland.ie. And employers can load up their vacancies on our site and they can manage them in their own time. We can match employees or prospective employees to the vacancies that are advertised on our Jobs Ireland website. And as Natasha mentioned, we have access to all the people who are on the live register. They're on their job seekers payments. They're our customers, and our role, I suppose, is to get as many of them into suitable employment as possible. But also the fact that the vacancies that are advertised on our Jobs Ireland website, they are also advertised right across Europe through our EURES service. I suppose in recent times, because of the pandemic, as well as having the vacancies up on Jobs Ireland, we have also run, I suppose, a lot of recruitment drives, both for individual employers, maybe where they had lots of vacancies, or for particular sectors, maybe, that maybe there was 5 or 6 employers that all had similar vacancies. And so we would run I suppose, a recruitment drive for a particular industry, whether it was hospitality, retail, whatever the needs are. But I suppose for a lot of employers, they're looking to say, well, look at grants, financial supports, what is there out there? The main financial support for employers would be Jobs Plus. So what this particular grant is, it's a grant to an employer to take on somebody from the live register, and in return they will get a payment from the department over 2 years. Now, depending on the age of the person and how long they've been unemployed, the grant that's available is either 7,500 or 10,000, and that's paid over 2 years monthly by EFT. So with this particular programme, Jobs Plus, the vacancies have to be at least 30 hours per week, and they do need to span at least 4 days. Okay, so full information on that is on the website, for Jobs Plus, which is jobsplus.ie. And just for anybody looking at my picture there, I actually put my email address on when I was signing into the call here today. My surname's a bit funny because sometimes people get it wrong. So if anybody has any queries on anything, just take a note of my email address there, and you can always drop me an email and I can talk you through any of this one-on-one. So as I say, Jobs Plus would be the main grant for employers, and that's for aimed at any person who has been unemployed over a particular length of time, that an employer can get a grant for that. The other schemes that are available for grants come in under what's called the Reasonable Accommodation Fund, and these would be aimed towards taking on people who have a disability. So the first one will be the wage subsidy scheme. Now this is a different one than the pandemic wage subsidy. This one is for people with a disability. So if you were to take on somebody with a disability for over 21 hours per week, up to 39 hours per week, the grant that's available for that is $6.50 per hour. And then to complement that wage subsidy scheme, there's also what's called the Work Equipment Adaptation Grant. And this helps with any specialist equipment, I suppose, outside of the normal equipment that an employer would be required to provide. So for example, if there was specialist software needed, a special chair, maybe modification to the office, things like that, there are grants for that. And the grant for that is up to €6,350. But there is an option for it to be increased up to €9,523 if there was specialist training needed to use the new equipment, you know. Also another grant that's there, and I mean, a lot of times people never hear about these grants, they just don't know about them. But in the event that you had a current employee and they acquired an illness or a condition that impacted their ability to do the job, there is an employee retention grant out there as well. And that helps with training the person affected so that they can stay in their job, or if there was retraining so that the person could take up another opportunity within the company. And as I said, for those particular grants and things like that there, if anybody wants further information, like they are on the website, but maybe you want to talk to me. So in that case, then just drop me an email and I'll get back to you and we can arrange time to have a call. But then the other thing, I suppose, like people say, well, what is intro? Well, like it's a single point of contact for all employment and payment supports, you know, and taking all that into consideration, I suppose it's only right that we have the employer engagement teams to, I suppose, work between the job seekers and the employers that are out there. And, you know, we want to get job seekers into jobs, but we want them to be into jobs that are suitable for the employers. Like, you know, employers don't want to be going recruiting all the time. If you can get one good person in, that's really what you want. But I suppose, like, with the pandemic, like, lots of people did lose their jobs, and in some cases, their jobs have not reopened. And for some people, this has given job seekers cause to consider their future going forward. Like, what do they want to do? Or, you know, going forward, maybe they've reassessed where they're at and maybe decided, you know, and maybe I don't want to go back to that particular industry. Maybe there's something else better out there for me, but I don't have experience. What am I going to do? Well, the government launched the Work Placement Experience Programme. And this is an example of a programme which is of great benefit to both an employer and also to a job seeker. For the job seeker, they get to try something new, to get new work experience onto their CV, and at the same time to get accredited training. But for the employer, like, this is a free programme. The scheme lasts for 30 hours per week and for 6 months. And so the employer gets an extra pair of hands into their business. There is great support from DSP in providing accredited training for the job seeker. So they'll get accredited training, you know, through DSP, but they'll also get informal training through the host company, the employer. And it's a fantastic opportunity to identify future employees for your business. And if they fit your business and it all works out, you can hire the participant, and the time that they spent on Jobs Plus also counts as time toward, or sorry, the time they've spent on the Work Placement Experience Programme counts towards time to be eligible for Jobs Plus. You know, so, you know, it's a win-win situation. You get somebody in with practical work experience, you get to try them out, and, you know, if you're going to take them on, then you have the option then of applying for as I say, for Jobs Plus. Now there is a monthly I suppose forms just to show what training is taking place, but it's nothing too onerous. Do you know what I mean? So it's just to make sure that the person is getting the practical experience that they were promised, if you like, when they took on the opportunity for the work placement experience program. And again, if anybody wants to talk to me about this, one-on-one, drop me an email and I can go through the full details, and we see how we can help you. That's really what we want to do, is we want to help employers, because if we help employers, we're going to get people into jobs, and that's a win-win for us.
Perfect, Audrey. Thanks a million. You covered a huge array there. And I know I have the toolkit available that I'll attach when I send out the presentations as well. So there's a lot there that maybe businesses don't even know about. I certainly know when I'm talking to them, they don't know half of the financial supports that exist that the services you've mentioned offer. So thank you for that and taking the time today to go through it. So now I'm going to move on to Eleanor, actually in the higher ed space. And again, I hope, Eleanor, on the basis of my initial context, businesses at least have some indication throughout COVID and Springboard and the Human Capital Initiatives. There's a huge array of higher education provision. And I think sometimes when we meet with employers and we talk about higher education, they traditionally almost always just think about, oh, they're the traditional degree programs on offer. And they don't think about maybe what's coming through the pipeline now in terms of more flexible, blended micro-credentials offerings because of some of the projects under Human Capital Initiative. So one of those projects that I'm delighted and honoured to be part of is the Convene. So if you could maybe give a highlight context of that project and anything else you'd like to add on the higher ed space that you think would be useful for businesses on this call, particularly the SMEs, Eleanor, who might want to understand, well, what does that mean for me to engage in that project? Thank you.
I will. Thank you. Thanks, Natasha. Hello, everybody. So my name is Eleanor Kelly, and I am part of the team here at UCD Innovation Academy. And just as some background on us, we were set up about 10 years ago by Professor Susie Jarvis, essentially to better prepare graduates for the fourth industrial revolution. So skills, talent, ensuring that graduates coming out of universities are able to hit the ground running. And so Convene is our collaboration with TU Dublin. So it's UCD and TU Dublin. It's actually the two largest universities in the country collaborating together with the support of Human Capital Initiative Pillar 3. And so this funding is, sorry, there's students walking past. If you see me get distracted, I'm in UCD today. The Human Capital Initiative Pillar 3 is essentially to support innovation and agility in higher education. But what does that really mean? Essentially, what we're trying to do is to bring enterprise closer to higher education. And, that's something that we in the Innovation Academy have done since we were set up 10 years ago. Part of our whole approach here is that enterprise is incorporated into the programs that we deliver, whether that's an enterprise person coming along to kind of give a fireside chat or actually having a team of students work on a challenge for an enterprise. So that's something that's really in our DNA. So it was a good fit for us then when we sort of moved on to the Human Capital Initiative and to this collaboration with TU Dublin. And TU Dublin obviously have unparalleled enterprise reach in Ireland. So it's a nice fusion of both. So what in practice does this mean, and what are we doing in Convene? So essentially what we're trying to do is to ensure anything that we create, anything that we launch is in response to enterprise needs. And I think something that you reminded me of, Natasha, when you mentioned the National Training Fund there, is that the Human Capital Initiative was funded by the National Training Fund. So I think that's a really important point for any of us working on it to remember. And an important point for why it needs to be in lockstep with enterprise needs, because enterprise has paid for this, to be frank. And so what we are doing is, at the moment, we're about a year into Convene, and we're working closely with enterprise to identify their needs and then to essentially co-create and co-design responses to those needs. And that can be something very modest, or it can be something much bigger. And essentially the idea is that the projects and the ideas that we create and co-design is something that we can then scale beyond Convene. You know, we want to scale up anything that we do within Convene to higher education all around Ireland. It's not just about Convene, it's about us creating something that we can scale elsewhere. So let me give you a few examples of what that looks like. So one example that we have at the moment is around a project on transversal skills. So you'll know that obviously transversal skills are just some of the most important skills that we need to cultivate at the moment, whether, you know, soft skills or power skills or however you term them. And I suppose the experience of the pandemic really underscored the need for this within the workforce, the need for adaptability, resilience, flexibility, you know, people to be able to turn their hand to multiple tasks. And I know that's something that's particularly relevant for SMEs. So we are developing a transversal skills program through virtual reality, actually, because what we found is that, you know, for people to connect with transversal skills, the medium is really important. It's not something that you can learn sitting in a classroom looking at a lecture. And for us in the Innovation Academy, we are very hands-on. We're about experiential learning. It's not about somebody sitting at the top of the classroom telling you what to do. And so we're creating a virtual reality program. It's self-led, so essentially it can be sent out to you wherever you are in the country. You don't need to come to Dublin or come to UCD or wherever. And it takes you through this program to develop transversal skills. What it also does, importantly, is it will identify areas where then you can develop. So it's not about finding out whether you're good or bad at something. It's about helping you find out, okay, well, perhaps, you know, X employee needs more support in communications and presentation, and then allowing the supports and providing the supports to improve the transversal skills. So I suppose for anyone on the call here from an SME who's interested in this, we're in the testing phase of this at the moment. And I suppose a lot of what we're doing at Convene, it's early stage stuff. So not like Audrey, where she can give you all these very tangible things that you can immediately participate in. We're still in that kind of design phase. But for this to work, we need the involvement of enterprise and SME. So if this is something of interest, we're rolling out enterprise pilots where you'll get to test this out yourself and share your feedback with us. And if you're interested, please do get in touch. So that's one project. Another project to give you a flavor of what we're doing. So at the Innovation Academy, we have, for about 6 years now, run a very successful diploma course for educators to help educators sort of reimagine their whole approach to education. And it's traditionally been with kind of, you know, teachers from primary school right up to third level lectures and so on. But what we noticed in the last few years is more and more enterprise educators, in fact, getting in touch. So people, L&D professionals from enterprise, and really just every, you know, from large MNCs to SMEs. We had one person who was a rugby coach educator who taught rugby coaches. So really just a huge range of, I suppose, less traditional educators that are coming in. And so we've identified this need around, I suppose, learning and development professionals. And what we're exploring is whether we create a version of that program for L&D professionals. And I suppose the early stage engagement that we've done with enterprise so far has really identified this need, that L&D, particularly since the pandemic, has rocketed in importance, and that the value that people are placing on, I suppose, from a talent acquisition perspective, you know, if people are going to join your enterprise, the value that you place on L&D has suddenly become a big factor in that. So we're getting really interesting feedback in this early stage, and what we're hoping to do would be to roll out a pilot for this educators program. And it's essentially to, I suppose, incorporate creativity, innovation, to sort of reimagine your approach to your L&D offering. So again, hoping to roll out that pilot in August. If that's of interest to anyone, get in touch, because, you know, everything that we do has to be in lockstep with the needs of enterprise. So we really value kind of hearing directly from you. And then I'll just finish with another example of a Convene project. And that's around the makerspace that we have. So makerspace is essentially a space with, you know, various types of technology and 3D printers and various emerging technology, usually the preserve of engineering departments in universities and the like. What we have done and what we're doing with TU Dublin is creating a multidisciplinary space where everybody can come and learn these hands-on skills. But what we're hoping to do is to use that makerspace as a forum to develop green skills. So again, in terms of an emerging kind of skills need, emerging talent need, we know that supply is going to, or that demand is going to outstrip supply. It probably already is very quickly in green skills. What we're seeing in our engagement is, that it's not just the sort of green roles that need green skills anymore. It's every role, that needs some element of sustainability and green skilling. And so what we're hoping to do is to explore the makerspace as, again, a kind of hands-on experiential space where enterprise can come and learn about the circular economy, learn about sustainability in a practical, tangible way. So those are just 3 examples of some of the projects that we're doing under Convene at the moment. And as I said, everything we do needs to be in lockstep with your needs. So I'd love to hear from you and happy to talk about it further. Thanks.
Fantastic, Eleanor. You stepped into the realm this morning, I can tell you, well done. That's fantastic. And again, I think what it does showcase is exactly what I started with, the breadth of other things outside of what a company might traditionally think, oh yeah, sure, higher education does those traditional degree programs. And that's really it. You do a hell of a lot more. And I know from working with the team in the Innovation Academy, and I've spoken to learners who've gone through some of the programs, and I mean the positive feedback because of the flexibility, the agility based on what they're learning in those programs, specifically at a transversal skills focus base, is just phenomenal. So well done to the success to date. And I will include again the link to the Convene detail and the Innovation Academy on the slide as well for you. So thank you for that. So moving on, Margaret, from the further education space, we do a lot of work together as well. And I know, again, just to maybe start with, for a lot of businesses, when they think of further education, traditionally they think the focus is on unemployed. And yet it has far, far moved beyond that in the last number of years. So again, just to maybe give an overview context of the offering on the further education space that you're focused on. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks, Natasha, and thanks everybody. Lovely to be here. So I'm from City of Dublin Education and Training Board. My role is Employer Engagement Coordinator. In Dublin, we have 2 ETBs, as Natasha indicated. We've got City of Dublin and Dublin Dún Laoghaire ETB. And we would be constantly engaging with employers, hopefully, and have done, responded to their needs, their specific needs in upskilling, reskilling, retraining. We've linked in with Audrey and her colleagues with the Intrio and DSP, and we have collaborated actually on a very interesting project fairly recently, in that the healthcare, for instance, the healthcare sector came to the DSP and said, we all know there's a huge shortage of staff across all sectors, but particularly they honed in on the healthcare sector. So we, along with one of our colleges, actually offered the 2 component certs that are required to be able to work in that sector through Skills to Compete. So they were people on the live register, came on, did 2 modules, and by doing those 2 modules, were then able to become employed in the sector. We then brought them back in, and through the Skills to Advance initiative that Natasha indicated and talked about earlier, we're now able to upskill them as employed people. And they are now going to get their full 8 modules for a full award and be fully qualified to work in that sector. So that's just one example. We have offered through the Skills to Advance initiative, we have offered huge amount of upskilling opportunities, particularly in the last 2 years with the pandemic and people trying to, businesses opening, closing, was it safe, social distancing, clean. We did infection prevention and control, QQI, again, a QQI Level 5 module. We had hundreds across the city. Employers supported their staff, released their staff to be able to do that module to keep everybody safe as we were opening, closing, opening up again. We did supervisory management through the Skills to Advance. And as Eleanor said, that whole idea of people's role expanding. There is a huge shortage of staff. There is a need to make your staff more agile, more flexible, more able to respond beyond what they initially were probably appointed for. So we've run, there is an Institute of Leadership and Management program we run through the Skills to Advance as well. Supervisory, one QQI level 6 module can be run over 6 weeks, and your supervisors or anybody aspiring to be a team leader or what will get skills needed to work in that role. We do customer service, health and safety, all of those through the Skills to Advance. So Skills to Advance is for anybody currently employed who wish to upskill in that particular sector or module, and all of those programs, as Natasha, you can build each of the modules to achieve a full award, but each of those modules stand in their own right, and they're called a component cert and are there and banked for life on QQI. So no learning is wasted, absolutely no learning. We can offer, as Natasha indicated, e-college is another thing we can do, and that is for a particular kind of learner. They have to be disciplined and prepared to work on their own and go in up on into their laptop and work through. It is supported by Senate, is the host of that database, and there's a huge range of programs that people in employment can avail of through eCollege. We offer traineeships, and we do two-prong approach to our traineeships. So you could have people in employment, and again through the Skills to Advance initiative and funding, we can offer traineeships for those people in specific areas. And we have traineeships from hospitality, dental nursing, sports, animation, traditional Irish music. And we, as I said, in our dental nursing, we have people who are working in dentistry but haven't got the certification. But at the end of the program, they're going to be fully qualified dental nurses. And we also have taken people off the live register and placed them on that program. So they too are working towards their full award and be fully qualified and can register on the Dental Council following successful completion of the program. So there's a huge range of programs we can offer, and they, as I said, for people in employment and people not employed, and we link in regularly with the DSP and Natasha, and we're always constantly needing your conversation and your feedback and your suggestions about what future skills you need, and we'd be quite prepared to sit down and talk to you around that. We also offer a huge amount around apprenticeships, and we lead, there are many, as it's constantly expanding the range of apprenticeship programs being offered. And we lead on the auctioneering and property services apprenticeship program, but we also offer hairdressing, commis chef, accountant technician. It's growing and growing. And at the minute, City of Dublin have 3 proposals in front of the apprenticeship office to develop new apprenticeship programs. So how they happen is that a group of employers would come to us and say, we'd love to look at this. And there's a lot of work goes in preparing to develop a program, but very, very worthwhile. And there is, as Natasha indicated, there is anybody who employs an apprentice will get what's called an apprenticeship grant for the duration of your apprentice being on a program. So there, I'm really doing a very quick overview. We also have 2 fantastic programs that we're really interested in doing and excited about doing, and they're Explore and DigiEco. And we have 2 colleges, Coláiste Dúlaig and Pierce College, who will host those programs. And the Explore program, I know Natasha talked about them earlier, but it's a lovely program. It's a lovely program for people who are nervous around technology, who would never have engaged with the idea of lifelong learning. It's credited, so there's no exams, there's no pressure, but it's very much a personal journey. And our tutors would go and on a personal one-to-one basis, bring a person, that your employee through that program. And as the big carrot is being handed a laptop, it's fantastic. And we have successfully ran, I think, about 5 groups through City of Dublin. I know our colleagues Dublin and Leary are also going to offer that this year as well. And as I said, Closh, Doolig and Pierce College are recruiting for that, and we'll be delighted to talk to anybody about doing that. We're also this year too going to offer a DigiEco, which is new to us, and we will be linking in with higher ed on that, because a certain aspect of the training comes from that level of instruction and tuition. So we hope to have that both Explore and DigiEco with both of those centres up, one possibly before summer and then the other one in September. And you know what, if there's a need to go again, we most certainly would love to talk to you and do that. And again, we're going to sit down with Dublin and Leary ETB so that there's a consistent approach from the ETBs in your area to that kind of programme.
Perfect, Margaret.
I could keep going,
as well.
but I know we're tight on time.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And again, hopefully what it does is give the businesses on the call the breadth of maybe the offerings to actually get in touch and start talking through what it is that they need, which leads us very nicely on to our final speaker, Rolando from S-Mart Finch. I mean, to be fair, we could talk about all this stuff all day, Rolando, but from your perspective and the business, it's important that other businesses hear how you've benefited, your employees have benefited, and we're extremely grateful for your opportunity to speak to you today, because to be fair, you've engaged in a huge amount. There's been English language classes, Explore, Springboard, there's been other initiatives that you've engaged with because you're an EI client as well. So it's a real opportunity to showcase the other businesses, what you'd say to them as to how you've benefited and why they should maybe engage with us as well. So thank you for attending today.
Thank you for having me, and there's no pressure. So for me trying to, obviously explain the journey that we have actually gone through in the last couple of years. So we started the program, as you mentioned there, with EI. So we came out of what they call a master class, which is the spotlight on skills. So which is a program whereby companies that are trading internationally are able to assess their skills gaps and then come up with a strategy to actually address it. Yeah. So from that, then, we were introduced to yourself, Natasha, and the Regional Skills Forum. And I was delighted with that because, as you mentioned at the start of your presentation, it's very difficult to navigate the whole system in Ireland, okay? In terms of, all the offers that are out there, and it's quite, on one hand, exciting because there's so much we could actually do as a company. And then on the other hand, it's a bit frustrating because you're not sure, what to get, who to contact, and what steps to take. That's where you came in, and you actually had that initial meeting with ourselves in terms of assessing our needs in terms of training and development. And then I was delighted to then receive your lovely email, with the list of options that we had. And then from that, then we actually went ahead and actually signed up for a few of those programs, as you mentioned there. So I suppose the very first thing that we actually tried to, let's say, motivate people in our company to do was to get onto the e-college website and trying to find suitable, training for them so they could actually self-learn, do the self-learning. And then some of them did, as you mentioned there, it has to be like a type of person, a specific type of person that can actually have that discipline to go through that, yeah. And then on the other hand, then we identified some individuals that could benefit from programs like Explore, as you mentioned there, so which is a fantastic program, I have to say, highly recommend it. So as you mentioned, the carrot there for people people was the free laptop initially, but then once they got into the program, they actually saw the benefit in terms of their own personal digital skills, because a lot of these people, you have to remember, that are actually operators. They're actually working on machines, you know, and doing manual work, and they don't have time to sit in front of a computer. They don't need to in work, and then when they're home, so they may need to use you know, digital skills for their own personal assignments, and then obviously they don't have those skills, and then that's where Explore comes in. And then we were delighted to have that, and then obviously the 4 individuals who actually participated are actually recommending that throughout the company, and we're actually planning on going again if we're allowed. I don't know whether you can do it again. Margaret can confirm that if you can, you know. And then also on the training there, we did have a couple of people there joining a course via one of the ETVs. I can't remember which one, but there was a course on a 3D CAD design, and through a program called SolidWorks, and we're actually they're actually getting free licenses to use that as part of the program. And one of the individuals is actually going to continue on in terms of his personal education, and he's going to do a degree in engineering as a consequence of that. And for that, we're going to be looking at the one that you mentioned there, the I forgot the name. If you remind me.
Springboard.
Springboard,
yeah.
That's the name. So we actually had somebody else who actually joined one of the lean programs there, the masters in lean, and he did that through the Springboard, yes. And obviously we got the support. So I suppose to summarize what I said there. So basically, when it comes to learning and development, I know a lot of companies don't have the time or the skill set, you know, to start methodologically looking at their needs. So, and that's where you know, we were lucky to have that introduction to you, Natasha, and to the regional skills. And then I highly recommend every participant on this call to actually get in touch with you, have that you know, call in their diaries, and take it from there. And then you'll see the benefits, because once you understand what is available and then what you actually can avail of based on Natasha's assessment, you're going to be winning, you know, big time. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, Rolando. I couldn't have done the sales pitch any better, I can tell you. You've been fantastic. And we really appreciate you engaging in all of the provision, because I think, again, what we're trying to remind businesses out there is you all pay in from a tax perspective into the National Training Fund. So you should be availing back from that. And you've done exactly that, Rolando. And I know at the start, it's that introduction piece. But again, it doesn't stop after we've done a skills audit, because as we've both agreed, things change, other skills needs arise. So that connection can remain. I mean, I remember you touching base with me over an email about something else that arose that we were able to then connect you to. So we're only too delighted to support. And we really, really are grateful of that participation, because all of those provisions are there for business, but it's about the business engaging with us to do that. And I think based on even the stories from the employees, particularly who participated in Explore, we're very appreciative of that, because you took the time to allow those individuals to participate in that. And it's meant a huge amount to them in building their digital skills capacity.
It's actually an investment. It's an investment by the company in our own growth and development, yes.
Exactly. If there was one sentence, Rolando, if one employee who did Explore was on the call, what do you think they'd say?
They'll probably say that they're delighted to have a free laptop that they can use. they can use their newly gained digital skills on, yes.
Yeah. And that's the comfort of it, that it's not belong to the company. So that fear of I'm going to break it or I'm going to damage it, and it's belong to the company, that it helps them on their start journey. But as they progress, they can continue that digital skills journey.
Can I add to that? There's actually a personal well-being element to Explore, not only digital skills, it's also the personal development.
Yeah,
as well.
Well done. Yeah, you reminded me of that as well. So thank you very much for that. Folks, I know at this stage, I'm so grateful for each of the panel. We could chat about this all day, but we have a schedule on time and we're just on time for that. I do know that there's 2 questions in the chat box. I know that for the person we can send on Margaret's details, no problem at all, and Audrey's details as well. And I think there was an individual looking, they identified how difficult it is to get the job because they have a master's in operations management. We'll get some clarity around that, and I can connect you actually with AD, I can connect you with Audrey, and Audrey might be able to help you with that as well on the basis of the jobs that are being advertised. So look, folks, I'm really appreciative of the time that you took today. One of the call to actions, as I said, and hopefully Rolando has reinforced that message, is to get in touch with us. And that starting journey can start with that very initial conversation. And it then allows us to connect you to all of the individuals who presented what they offer as supports to businesses from here. So thank you very much for your attention today, and look forward to connecting with you again. I will follow with the presentation slides and the links to each of the providers who have some of those provisions in place, and obviously Audrey as DSP. So thank you very much, and I wish you all continued success in your business, and have the lovely rest of the day. Thank you, and thank you for attending, and thank you to all the panel members. We'll be in touch again.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Siobhan.
Thanks.
Thanks, Aoife. Take care.